There was a time when American cars didn't need defending. You didn't explain them, you felt them. You could hear a big V8 before it turned the corner. Long hoods, wide bodies, chrome that caught the sun, and names that sounded like promises. Impala, Galaxy, Cutlass, Roadrunner. In the 1960s and early 1970s, buying an American car wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about confidence. These cars were built to cruise, built to be seen, built to last. General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler dominate the roads, the drive-ins, and the imagination. The big three weren't just manufacturers, they were symbols of American life. Look at a 1965 Chevrolet Impala rolling down the highway. Smooth ride, soft suspension, bench seats you could slide across. Or a 1970 Buick Electra 225, quiet as a living room, designed for long distances and comfort. Pontiac gave the world the GTO, turning ordinary family sedans into tire-smoking legends. Ford struck gold with the Mustang, a car that made performance affordable. Chrysler answered back with Chargers and Challengers, powered by engines that shook the pavement. These cars weren't perfect, but they had personality. They were designed by people who cared about how a car felt, not just how much it cost to build. Then the world changed. In the 1970s, the oil crisis hit hard. Gasoline became expensive. Fuel economy suddenly mattered more than power. The big three tried to respond, but they were slow and awkward. Cars like the Ford Maverick and Chevrolet Nova were smaller, but still heavy and still thirsty. Downsizing happened, but without finesse. At the same time, Japanese cars started quietly appearing on American roads. Toyota Corollas, Datsun 510s, simple cars that didn't look exciting but started every morning and didn't break down. They were efficient, reliable, and easy to live with. American buyers noticed, even if they didn't want to admit it. By the 1980s, the big three were no longer leading the market. They were reacting to it. Cost-cutting became the priority. Interiors got cheaper. Sheet metal got thinner. Engines were tuned more for fuel economy than enjoyment. Cars like the Chevrolet Citation, Ford Escort, and Dodge Aries became common sights on the road. General Motors leaned heavily into badge engineering. The same basic car could be sold as a Chevrolet, a Buick, an Oldsmobile, or a Pontiac. Different grille, different badge, same car underneath. It saved money, but it slowly erased identity. For buyers who remember when each brand stood for something unique, this felt like betrayal. In the 1990s, the confusion deepened. Pontiac tried to stay sporty with the Grand Prix and Firebird. Oldsmobile attempted a comeback with the Aurora, a car that looked modern and advanced. Buick leaned into comfort with cars like the LeSabre and Park Avenue. Yet under the surface, many of these cars shared the same platforms, the same engines, the same compromises. There were bright spots. The 1996 Chevrolet Impala SS reminded people what American performance could feel like. Big V8, rear-wheel drive, real presence. Enthusiasts loved it. But cars like that became the exception, not the rule. As the late 1990s rolled in, the big three found an escape route. SUVs, the Ford Explorer, Chevrolet Tahoe, and Dodge Durango sold in huge numbers. They were profitable, easy to build, and based on truck platforms the companies already had. Money poured in. Engineering attention followed. At the same time, sedans were neglected. Interiors lagged behind competitors. Driving feel became numb. Reliability rankings slipped. Japanese and European brands kept improving their cars, while American brands focused more on trim levels and marketing than substance. By the early 2000s, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Cars like the Chevrolet Cobalt, Dodge Caliber, and Pontiac Aztek struggled to connect with buyers. Some had good ideas, others were simply forgettable. None felt like cars people dreamed about. They were transportation, not passion. Then came 2008. Fuel prices spiked. SUV sales collapsed almost overnight. Credit dried up. The weaknesses that had been hidden by years of truck and SUV profits were suddenly exposed. General Motors and Chrysler went bankrupt. Ford survived, but just barely. Hard choices followed. Pontiac, Saturn, and Hummer were shut down. Oldsmobile was already gone. These brands weren't killed because people hated them. They were killed because they no longer had a clear place in a changing market. So why did American cars get so bad? Not because Americans forgot how to build cars. Not because there was a lack of talent. It happened because cost-cutting replaced pride, because platforms were reused for too long, because brand identity became blurry, and because short-term profit mattered more than long-term loyalty. A car can survive one bad generation. It can even survive two. But when disappointment becomes normal, trust disappears. Today, American cars are better again. Build quality has improved. Technology is competitive. But something is still missing. When people talk about the golden age, they aren't talking about screens or software. They're talking about how cars felt. The sound of an engine. The weight of a door. The way a car made you feel when you parked it and walked away. That's what people miss. So maybe the real story isn't just about collapse. Maybe it's about distance. A slow drift away from what once made American cars special. And the real question now is whether that feeling can ever truly come back.